Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. How are you guys? It's so good to see you all here. I certainly appreciate each and every one of you being here. Hey, Lynn, good to see you. Hi, John. How are you? CJK, nice to have you in the house. Hi, Just Pam. Yeah, I'm Central Standard Time. I know sometimes it's hard to remember. Hey, Jane from the country. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Hey, Maria. How are you doing? So good to have you here with me. Hey, Jacqueline Keeley. How are you? Welcome. Hi, Allie H. Always nice to see you here. Hey, Judy Holiday. Thanks for being here. Cindy Delafonte, good to see you as well. Hey, Unsolved Crimes Uncovered, how are you? Thank you for being here. Hey, Michelle. Welcome. How are you? So glad you made it. Hey, this account. Thank you for being here. How's everybody doing? Is everybody ready for this? Hey, Zooter, how are you? Good to see you. Oh, Maria, thank you so much for joining. I so appreciate it. You always surprise me, but thank you so much. So appreciate you. Tamara, hello. Good to see you. How are you? Hey, Olivia. How are you, my dear? Welcome, you guys. Thank you all for showing up. Should be a good conversation tonight. We're going to cover Dylan Rounds first as our featured missing person case. I'm sure that all of you are aware. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I too loud, do you think? Is my mic a good level for you guys? Thank you. I always want to make sure that the sound's good. My new microphone is amazing. I love it. I cannot say enough about it. It has really changed how things sound and how things come out when I do lives and when I do videos. So I really appreciate your feedback. But we're going to cover Dylan tonight. And hey, Just Pam, how are you? Good to see you. Most of you probably have heard of Dylan's case. He went missing over the right before Labor Day weekend, or Labor Day, I'm so sorry, right before Memorial Day weekend. And so we're going to talk about him. I think he's been missing now for a little over 6 weeks. So 5 to 6 weeks. Oh, Allie, you are so sweet. You are so sweet. I don't hear it, but I get so many compliments on my voice. So I certainly appreciate it. I don't know that I have a radio voice, but I certainly appreciate you guys. Oh. Okay, so I've got a couple of housekeeping things that I want to do. And as you guys know, I always do my housekeeping first. Maria, I back at you because I absolutely love your voice. So seriously. So You guys are so nice. Unsolved Crimes, you have a wonderful voice. You have a really nice voice. I've spoken to her on the phone, so she's got a really great voice. Hey, K.A., good to see you. So hopefully Nightbot will behave tonight. So we will keep him in line. I don't know if Jennifer's here or not, but she may join later. So she always keeps Nightbot in line for me. So, couple of things that I wanted to talk about. First of all, if you guys are new to my channel, I do have membership available. So please feel free to join our little community that's growing here. We've got a really good group started of wonderful people who come to discuss these true crime cases with us, and they discuss it intelligently and kindly and with respect. And those are the things that we desire here at Behind the Crime Door. So I would welcome all of you to join and become members and become part of the doors. That's kind of what we call ourselves here. For those of you who are older, as myself, you might remember the doors. Anyway, with that being said, that's about the membership. And you can go find information about my membership. It's on my YouTube channel, the main page. If you just click on the membership link, it'll take you to the tier levels. There's 3 levels. And my members are going to be getting special perks from me. So the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight, just briefly, there's been a lot of recent awful activity in the true crime community again. And I'm really sorry to see it. And I can't sit by as a creator and not comment on it because it has upset me. And all I want to say, I'm not going to go into a whole diatribe on it tonight, because I think that with these types of individuals, the best thing that we can do is to ignore them. But at the same time, the things that have been done are so heinous that I need to speak out on it. So I just want to say that my good friend, True Crime Maria, has gone through some horrific things, and some of you may have seen it already and been around and had people talking about it or whatever. And what I want you guys to know is this: if someone in the next few days puts out a video slandering her, slamming her, saying horrible things about her, will you please know, coming from me, that none of it is true? Please take a minute to look at the individual who is actually making these claims, because this person is not who you all think they are. And I just want to say that. She is an amazing person. Her true crime channel is wonderful. She puts out some of the best videos, and she is a loyal person to Behind the Crime Door, sorry. And that's all I want to say on that, because I know that there's a lot of nastiness going on out there. And I just thank you, Michelle. I firmly believe that this person has severe mental problems. And what he's done to her, no person should ever go through. But women are so subjected to this in this country and in this society. And it's just time that we speak up about it. So cyberbullying, cyber stalking, sexual harassment, all of it, none of that is okay. And we have to stand up against it. So with that being said, I know I've got a lot of people here tonight that want to get right into the meat of this live stream. And one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to go over Dylan, and then we're going to talk about Delphi and whether or not we feel that there could be a sitting grand jury as we speak on this case. And all I can say is to people, I had a couple of comments on my thumbnail that this was clickbait. This isn't clickbait. I made it very small, and I wanted you guys to, I posed it as a question because I really think that it's quite possible that the grand jury is sitting and being used in an investigative capacity, which I don't think a lot of people understand, and the state of Indiana uses it quite frequently in that capacity. So we're going to go over that. So thank you for giving all the love to Maria, because she so deserves it. So thank you guys from me, from the bottom of my heart. She is a wonderful person, and I mean that wholeheartedly. And Olivia, I don't know what the email is, but I want you to email me anytime. You guys are always welcome to email me. I answer my emails. I try to comment on all the comments that are left on my live streams. I haven't had a reason lately, or really since I started, to shut down the comments on my videos. So at this point, you guys are welcome to comment, and I do try to comment on everything. So let's get right on this, and let's talk about Dylan. So for those of you that, you might be familiar, you're probably going to hear me say some stuff that you guys already know, but we're going to go over it. So Dylan is a 19-year-old who was living and working on his own farm in Lucin, Utah. This is, hey, Tech Death, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I so appreciate it. This is a desolate area that's near the border of Nevada, and he's been missing without a trace, and it's as if he just fell off the planet. Dylan was last seen on the 26th of May, 2022, and he was last heard of on the 28th of May. And a few days earlier, on the 25th of May, he had called several family members to report a strange run-in that he had on a gravel road. An erratic, barefoot man had flagged him down and asked to use his phone and for a ride. And Dylan mentioned on the phone calls to his family that he had declined the man the ride because the person was acting strange, and he suspected that he was on drugs, perhaps. This man was identified as an individual, I'm going to go with the initials of CV. He was later spotted in Montello, Nevada, and reported that he had gotten a ride to Dylan's trailer, and they know each other. With conflicts, the phone calls, which conflicts with the phone calls that Dylan had with his family, because Dylan said he did not know this person, and it actually made him uncomfortable. Dylan was placed in Montello via a bank usage on the 26th. This was also the day that he made phone calls to his parents. On the 27th of May, Dylan was last spotted in Montello, Nevada at the Saddle Sore bar, where he grabbed a bite to eat. Then a day later, on the 28th, Dylan answered a call from his grandmother. He told her he didn't have much time because he was in the midst of moving some of his equipment because it's raining, he said, and I can't talk to you right now. I need to move my seed truck. And those were the last words that the family ever heard of their son. There has been no contact with Dylan since. On the very same day, CV was seen on camera 200 miles from Lucin. Dylan grew up in Idaho and with a brother and a sister. His parents divorced when he was 4 years old, and he split his time between Idaho Falls and Twin Falls. He was always an avid outdoor child. He loved farming. He had a huge interest in farming. And in 2019, Dylan's grandfather, who had purchased land in Lucin, Dylan took care of the land. He cultivated the crop and started living alone in a camper on the property. And during the phone calls prior to May 28th, Dylan had exclaimed his excitement about his first crop of the year. Dylan was running the farm mostly alone, but had outside help from just a few people. Hey, Sally Ann. On the 30th of May, one of Dylan's friends got worried and called Dylan's mother. As per interviews with her, the family and several other people in town, along with the friend, went to Dylan's farm to look for him. And after their initial search, they were sure that Dylan's phone, wallet, and a handgun he'd always carry on his person were also missing. Dylan's truck was a maroon Ford, and it was found on his property, but it was locked, which is unusual because he never tended to lock it. And the family proceeded to break the window in order to gain access to his truck. The car seat was moved forward all the way, and the mother noticed that Dylan's seat is usually further back because he's very tall. The truck had also been pressure washed on the outside and the truck bed. The wash also removed any marks on the ground. There was damage to the car, but Dylan's mother proclaimed that it was old damage. The truck was generally old and kind of beaten up, and Dylan's main vehicle to get around the farm, the desert, and the nearby town. The truck was also in four-wheel drive, a setting that didn't work on Dylan's truck, and he didn't use it for that particular reason. He never used four-wheel drive. Hey, Grizzmatically, so good to see you, hon. Thank you for coming. Hey, hey, Kristen. Hey, Dana. How are you? Good to have you with us. Dylan had a pressure washer on his farm, and the farm hands would know where it was located, and the family notified the police as soon as possible, and they started a missing persons report. Officials then pinged his phone and subsequently found Dylan's only pair of boots 100 yards south of where Dylan's grain truck was parked, and the boots had been tossed behind a pile of dirt. The area was opposite his camper and would be quite far to walk without shoes. And that's what they noticed, is that the boots were facing the opposite direction of where he would have been going to his camper. Hey, Faye, welcome. Good to have you. Tamara, thank you so much for your super sticker. So welcomed. Thank you for supporting Behind the Climb Door. I so appreciate you. The detectives, when they were examining the boots, they noticed a stain on the boots, and it was a spot of blood. And they initially were sent in for testing because the police held on to them for the cadaver dog search. Several ground and air searches were deployed, but the rain that had happened before his disappearance meant large areas had been washed or washed away. Um, you have to understand in the desert, I used to live in Arizona, and I'm very familiar with what happens in the desert when it rains. It just kind of washes the top of the sand and the soil away. It just washes it. So if there had been any kind of evidence or trace evidence or whatever, or I was even thinking like tire marks, tread marks, or footprints or shoe marks, those may have been washed away as well. Dylan's last cell phone data was picked up on the 28th of May near his farm, and it also confirms that the last phone call to his grandmother was made from the farm. So they know he was there. Due to Lucin being on the border between two states, two police jurisdictions were on the case, with Box Elder County Sheriff handling it on the Utah side, and Dylan's grandparents also hired a PI. The community, as well as Rocky and EquiSearch, came in to help with drone and ground searches. The grain truck was emptied, but nothing pertaining to Dylan was found. There's been tons. Hey, Gonzo, how are you? I'm so happy to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So EquiSearch came in to help with drone and ground searches. The grain truck was emptied, but nothing pertaining to Dylan was found. However, the search apparently found a deceased person in their 40s who was apparently not connected to this case. However, there have been other missing person cases in that area. Aiden Clune is a 19-year-old who was last seen on the 27th of April around 50 miles south of Wells, Nevada, which is about 100 miles away from Dylan's area. And Aiden allegedly suffered a mental health crisis and was last known to have driven out into the desert. His vehicle was found abandoned and his tracks were eventually lost. And during the tracking process, it was noted that Aiden was taking off his shoes and running part of the time. He'd remove his shoes and walk across roads barefoot. There were no additional tracks indicating that he was by himself. Cornelius Frederick Bogslag was a 30-year-old who is also missing from South Salt Lake, and he was last seen on the 5th of June, 2022, and his vehicle was located in the remote area of Summit County with its license plates removed. Searches right now at this very moment are still ongoing as the areas are vast. Dylan's trailer is under investigation by the FBI. The FBI was called in. They are actively working this case with local law enforcement. There was a phone call between the private investigator that the family hired and Dylan's family members, and it had been leaked, it sounds like, and it took place a few days prior. And in the call, the PI relays some information that some of the family members weren't happy about, and they fired him over it. And I guess you can take it all with a grain of salt, because I'm not sure, if this PI was fired and the family's got issues. I'm not really sure what's going on there. So we always should keep an open mind on what the PI tells us. Any lead in any case, as we all well know, is important, no matter how small, how trivial we may think it is, because there can be truths found in all sorts of places. So we always should look at everyone, or at everything, with an open mind. So, hang on one second. So these are key figures in this case that the PI dug up while he was investigating. There is a person who used to work on Dylan's farm, and Dylan had fired him just 3 weeks prior. So he feels that this person is someone that needs to be looked at. There was a friend of Dylan. They went to the farm together. There is a person that is the owner of the Saddle Sore bar where Dylan was known to have eaten. And allegedly Dylan's boyfriend, he's 62 years old, and he might have groomed Dylan. This is all stuff uncovered by the PI. Originally said that the barefoot man, CV, alongside another man, have kidnapped Dylan. A call was made on the 31st claiming Dylan was being held hostage in Montello. KW has some of his equipment stored at Dylan's farm and worked for Dylan in the past. And he is the owner of the Saddle Sore bar where Dylan was last seen eating in public. And that's who he's saying is Dylan's boyfriend, and that he's 62 years old and may have groomed Dylan. So you can kind of see, if this is the stuff this guy has dug up, how the parents could be upset with this. Yeah, I agree, Gonzo, wholeheartedly. Gonzo says the PI going bye-bye was a bit crazy to me. Yeah, it's really wild. I just can't get over it. So anyway, KW has a brother who's 60 years old with previous stalking and kidnapping convictions, and he had scratches on his arms, which he claimed came from an ATV accident. The scratches were confirmed by Dylan's father, who actually saw them. The guy that Dylan found barefoot, allegedly an arch enemy of KW, the owner of the Saddle Sore bar, said that that C is holding Dylan against his will in Montello, and that he has a 17-year-old son. And both he and his son said to look into Dylan's boyfriend. So TW, which is the brother, the 60-year-old brother, got a call from a woman who is the private investigator got a call from a woman who is a social worker who was involved with women who got abducted by one of KW's family members. 2 of them were held for 4 months in a storage unit shed where they got assaulted and were told to remove their shoes. The social worker was then working with an elderly man named L.E., who is a registered sex offender in Elko, who she had to check on for elder abuse. She talked to him. He was old but lucid. All he talked about was that the family of KW and TW and Dylan, he thinks Dylan met the same fate as these aforementioned women. So this PI is just, information is just insane in my opinion, but you know, I'm all about telling you how it is, and this is what the guy said he found. Candace West, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. So there are several known sex offenders in the small town as well as dwellers. There's reports of vigilante groups that monitor the desert. This is known to the sheriff. They are policing their own sections of land, and KW and TW might be tied to these groups. There are comments were made that these groups patrol at night to keep outsiders and thieves, for example, people like the barefoot guy, away. The private investigator is speculating that Dylan either was part of these groups, looking after his own sections of land, or he had a run-in with them, and that the missing person, Aidan Clune, might have come across them. The private investigator proposes that Dylan perhaps helped the barefoot guy by giving him a ride out of town when he was in his section. But he is also attributing Dylan's cleaned and returned truck to these groups, stating that they are the ones who have done this. The private investigator was allegedly hired by Dylan's grandparents on his father's side, and the private investigator stated he never saw the mother crying, only the father. And according to him, they had a very rocky marriage, which influenced the kids' upbringing. And so eventually, Dylan's grandfather bought Dylan a farm to get him his own place. The private investigator also worked on Aidan Kuhn's case and said that both had interest in older men, according to Aidan's phone. Dylan's family does not believe that Dylan might have a boyfriend or could be attracted to men at all, and the PI thinks this is because of their Mormon faith. So they are Mormon. In the first week of the search, the private investigator tried to call Dylan's FaceTime, and it rang 11 times. Apparently, it could be that the phone is turned off, but it's on Wi-Fi somewhere, making FaceTime still accessible. Obviously, Dylan's sexuality plays no role, but if he was indeed attracted to men or older men or KW, and KW groomed him, this does play an important and dynamic and potentially deadly role in what may or may not have happened to him. It does give us further insight who could be tied to his disappearance. I mean, you can't overlook these things, right? You have to make note of them. As any lead in this case is important, and I feel that Dylan will be found, and I'm hoping beyond hope that this private eye may be right and what he's turned up, and that Dylan is truly alive. But his parents do not feel that way. I think his parents feel that he's not alive anymore. And so I just get this whole really bad dynamic feeling between the family and this PI. And that kind of bothers me a little bit. So why did Dylan describe CV as barefoot and erratic and said he didn't give him a ride when CV said that he did indeed receive a ride? CV and Dylan also know each other. Is he truly the barefoot man, or is there more to that story? I mean, these are questions that kind of come up, Why was Dylan's only pair of boots behind a pile of dirt in the middle of nowhere? Whose blood is it that's on those boots? Why was his truck washed completely clean, inside and out? Is the blood on the boot even related to his disappearance? I mean, he worked on a farm. It would really be easy to cut yourself, and drip a drop of blood on your boot. That's not uncommon. How close was Dylan to this bar owner? Does he know his brother? Is that all rumor, or is that, true? And given the fact that Dylan comes from a Mormon background and a Mormon family, if he does have this as his sexuality, he would definitely want to hide that, I would think, from his family, given what we know. So it's not uncommon that the family might not know any of this about Dylan. So I can see how this could be very hurtful to the family to find this information out, if it is true. The truck was pressure washed. They said it wasn't just washed like went through a car wash. It was pressure washed. So why was that? And is that connected to his disappearance? On July 7th, which is today, this is the update, guys. There were documents filed in court naming Jay, the friend of Dylan who helped on the farm, as a suspect. The court documents read that the shelter of land Dylan owns is adjacent to 2 other parcels on the land, and Dylan's property is roughly a 5-mile walk of where Jay was living. During a warrant for his trailer, ball ammunition, ignition caps, black powder, speed loads related to muzzle loading were found but not seized at the time. Later on, a friend of Jay was interviewed by BESCO, which is, I believe, the sheriff of Boweevil County, I think, and the FBI. And during that interview, he said that Jay brought 3 black powder guns over to Dee's residence, asking him to safekeep them, roughly around the time that Dylan went missing. Jay stated it was for his own safety, as the last time he had trouble with the law, they took everything from him. So it's almost like he knew they were going to be looking at him. The 3 muzzles were then turned over as evidence. Dee also claimed that Jay had brought him a .22 caliber rifle around the same time as he brought the muzzle loaders. And Dee didn't mention the rifle before because the original owner owned Dee money and he wanted to keep the rifle as leverage. Now, CV was indicted on weapon charges. The court documents list several firearms as well as ammunition. On May 12th, investigators conducted a residential search of his property in conjunction with a homicide investigation, but it's unclear at this time if this is related to Dylan or not. So that's pretty much what we know at this time about what's going on with Dylan. Multiple searches have been conducted, and they have not found anything. Podcaster Chris from Monsters Under the Bed, he's out actively searching for Dylan as we speak. So there's a lot of people have volunteered to go out and search for this young man. And the picture behind me, I'm going to quickly see if I can. I have trouble doing this on my computer, and I don't know why it doesn't move it for me. But it's because I have it as a background. Hold on one second. I'm just going to take myself off this stream for a second, and you guys can look at the remoteness of the 2 cities, for Lucin and for Montello, and how remote this place is. So you can see that it's, the board, there's the border of there's Utah, Nevada over here. Lucin is here. Montello is down here. And it is remote. There is nothing. I mean, seriously, nothing. Even when I was looking at the maps showing where Dylan's trailer and stuff was at, it's like he was farming dirt. I mean, it's just like there's no, I can't even imagine what he was trying to grow in that mess out there. Seriously. Hi, Katie Kitty. And so, yes, Lynn, they named a suspect today. They named his neighbor as a suspect. I'm not sure what's going on this weekend, but Jennifer knows, and Jennifer says that they don't want the townspeople searching this weekend. Others can search and have been approved. So it's just interesting that the family hired a private investigator right away, and he went out and he found out all this information, and then the family were so furious they fired him. So, I mean, there is a lot of what he says here, and it is kind of creepy. And you do kind of worry about the people who are going missing in that area. There seems to be people missing, young men, and that's kind of scary to so. But yeah, that's Dylan, and we're going to start following his case a little bit closer so that we can try to figure out what's going on. And I hope more people can help. That place is so vast and just nothing, so remote. They're going to need a lot of people to walk that and grid search that area. Um, and I just hope that they get more, truly. So, oops. Just when you think you've got everything the way you want it, and then you figure out you did something wrong. How's everybody doing? You think so, Tamara? If he was dedicated, Dylan would be found. Sounds like he found out information. If that information is true. Hi, Daisy. Welcome. Seems logical the LDS family knew, hence the outcasting of Dylan. Yeah. Well, you know that they were not going to allow that. I mean, if that was his sexuality and he made that known, that yeah, they were not going to allow that. Yeah, Jennifer, that is suspect, right? Why would he be gossiping all over YouTube? What's the purpose of that? Oh, Lord. She says he has an erase board with his PayPal information behind him. Oh, Lord. What a mess. I feel bad for families when this kind of individual gets involved in their cases. Just 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 awful. So we're going to switch gears, guys, and we're going to go jump over to Delphi. Now, one of the things here, let me change my background just one moment. Sorry. Okay. Got the bridge up there now. So I talked about grand juries on a previous live stream, and I even think I made a video about it months back. But I thought it was time to readdress this because continually things have gotten quiet again, and we can only assume that the reels of justice are turning, even if it's slowly in our eyes, The wheels of justice for Abby and Libby are turning. They are working behind the scenes, and they are doing things that we're not privy to or aware of. One of those things could be a grand jury. And there's a lot of things that I brought forth way back in March, April, when we were talking about the special prosecutor that had been seated in Carroll County. And people wanted to say that, no, that special prosecutor wasn't for Delphi, and all of this stuff. So you don't know that, that special prosecutor wasn't brought in specifically for Delphi. And I would like to think that, hey, Enoch, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see all of you guys. But anyway, we're going to talk about grand juries. We're going to talk about them, and we're going to go over why it may be very well possible that that's what's happening in the Delphi case, and we may not know until something actually comes of it. One of the things that I wanted, hold on. I don't know what I did with it. Okay. So we're going to talk about a number of different aspects of a grand jury. I just want to give you guys a little bit of an education on them. I have sat on a grand jury. I sat on a grand jury for 3 months, and we met weekly. It was very interesting. We always had numerous cases that we were hearing, though. Like, we would be given a stack of cases the morning that we showed up for our grand jury duty, and then sometimes we would have a stack of cases. Sometimes we would only have a couple. But grand juries are different in each state. There's different laws for them, and there's different uses for them. So what does a grand jury do? Specifically, grand juries were used to bring the everyday person's perspective into two aspects of government: investigating the crime and or the community conditions, and bringing charges against people who may have committed crimes. They bring charges in the federal system and in all but 2 of the states. Grand juries are used to bring charges against persons who are believed to have committed crimes. Makes sense, right? In the federal system and in some states, they have to be used to bring charges for just felonies, which are the more serious crimes that normally carry a prison term for those who are convicted of them. In Texas, they can be used to bring charges for felonies or for other crimes, but they don't have to be used. So if a prosecutor doesn't have to use a grand jury, he or she can bring the charges on their own, using what is called an information as the charging document. When a grand jury brings criminal charges, the charges are contained in a charging document that is called an indictment. We've all heard that on the news. We've all heard that before, that so-and-so was indicted today by the grand jury. If a prosecutor wants a grand jury to charge someone, the prosecutor reserves time with that grand jury and then presents evidence to them. In presenting the evidence, the prosecutor is trying to persuade the grand jurors that the people he or she wants to charge have committed certain crimes. The evidence can be almost anything. Testimony from witnesses, including police officers or federal agents, documents, video recordings, tape recordings, the results of scientific tests like DNA tests, photographs, etc. The grand jurors listen to this evidence, okay, and they decide if it establishes probable cause to believe the person the prosecutor wants to charge has committed the crimes or crime that the prosecutor is claiming. Now, after they hear all of this prosecutor's evidence, the jurors vote on a set of um, proposal charges and known as the indictment, which the prosecutor has drafted and gives to the grand jurors. If the grand jurors decide the evidence creates probable cause to believe the persons named in an indictment committed the crime, it charges them with they vote to return the indictment, to charge the person with those crimes. If they vote to return charges, is usually known as returning true bill. So returning charges means they vote you don't have enough evidence to indict this person. So if a grand jury votes to return a true bill, the indictment is hang on a second. I think I just said that wrong. I'm apologizing. It's called a true bill. The indictment is valid and it initiates a criminal case against the individual. So the true bill means that they are going to be indicted. If a grand jury votes to return that, then the indictment will continue and it initiates the criminal case against the person named as defendant in the indictment. And a simple majority of the grand jurors must vote for this indictment in order to return a true bill. It doesn't mean that it has to be unanimous. You know, when we go to a regular court of law and a regular jury, it has to be unanimous. It does not in a grand jury. It only has to be a simple majority. So if a majority of the grand jurors don't think the prosecutor evidence creates probable cause, they will vote not to return the indictment. When a majority of grand jurors vote to return the indictment, this is called returning a bill of ignoramus or returning a no bill. If the grand jurors vote not to return the indictment is not valid and no criminal case will go forward. So the basic rule of thumb is that jeopardy attaches when the first witness is sworn in a bench trial. That is a trial to the court where there is no jury, or when the jury is sworn in if the case is to be tried by a jury. So this means, for example, that if a jury has been sworn in and heard the evidence in a criminal case and they vote to acquit the defendant, he or she cannot be retried on those charges. That is jeopardy attaches. And this is precisely what happened to O.J. Simpson. Because the jury in the criminal case acquitted him, he cannot be retried on any charges arising out of the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson or Ronald Goldman unless new evidence was to come forward that was not presented in the original trial. The civil trial was not barred by double jeopardy because the double jeopardy provision only protects you from being repeatedly tried on the same criminal charges. Investigating grand juries also investigate either as part of bringing criminal charges or as purely a separate function. Many states have regular indicting grand juries, but a number of states also have grand juries that investigate organized crime, especially organized drug crime. Some states have grand juries investigate any kind of crime, organized or otherwise. And a few states follow the old common law practice and let grand juries initiate their own investigations based on what the grand jurors know about what is going on in their community. Isn't that interesting? I did not know that. And a common law grand juries could bring criminal charges in a special document, which was known as a presentment, when they acted on their own. If they returned charges brought to them by a prosecutor, those charges were contained in an indictment. If the grand jury acted without a prosecutor, they brought the charges in a presentment. Some states still let grand juries do this, but the presentment and the indictment have the same legal effect. Both initiate a criminal case. So what does that mean for Indiana? Well, Indiana uses grand juries to investigate crimes, all crimes. They not just organized. And I thought that that was quite interesting. So it is very possible that a grand jury has been seated in this case, in the case of Delphi, and especially if they have a suspect or suspects in mind. Hello, Northern Light. Hello, Cold Truth. Welcome, welcome. So I thought that was quite interesting to know in Indiana. And if they're investigating Delphi, if what happened in December, we go back and we know that that's when law enforcement in the, on a Monday night, around 9:30, decides to drop this huge bombshell on YouTube about Anthony Schatz. And if anybody out there has had contact with Anthony Schatz, this profile on Instagram or Snapchat or anywhere in the social media realm, please contact us. The call went out, right? And then we have Demi Johnson, the reporter, who already knew. She already knew when she got that information that the police already knew who Anthony Schatz was. They already knew who was behind that profile because they had Kagan in jail. And not only did they have him in jail, they'd had him in jail since August of when? When did they put Kagan in jail? You guys remember? August of 2020. So he had already been in jail for well over a year. Now, like I said, if they are looking at the Kleins as we all think they are, because of everything pointing to that, especially everything that's dropped this year since the transcripts and the HLN transcripts and all of that. Hey, Polygraph, good to see you. Did not see you come in. Thank you for joining. You have to look at all that stuff and where does it point? We know for a fact that a special prosecutor in Carroll County was appointed in January of 2022. I'm sorry, but to me, that coinciding with the Anthony Schatz revelation and them starting to grill and go after Kagan Klein and Tony Klein, we know all that was happening in 2020. These things take time. The term of a grand jury can be as long as 18 months, up to 2 years in the state of Indiana. They usually set in 3-month intervals. But depending on what they're investigating, If they can't, I mean, if they've been impaneled to investigate, then they have to give reports to the court every month as to what they're finding. And at the end of a 3-month term, then they have to continue. They continue on letting the court know we need 3 more months. We're not done. And if they feel in the beginning, if the special prosecutor is the one who called the grand jury and asked the court to embody a grand jury, because that's who has to do it. The court of law actually does it, and they are the ones who put the call out for grand jurors. They do it similarly to regular juries. You'll just get a jury summons in the mail. And once that's all seated, they have to continually tell the court what's happening in the investigation. And they keep having to ask for continuances of that grand jury up till that point. Because again, you have to remember, you've got people that are sitting on these grand juries that have jobs. And some of these grand juries meet twice a month. Some of them will meet twice a week. I mean, it just depends on what and how it's set up for what the grand jury is. So, yeah, it's very possible that I would love to believe that there is a grand jury seated that has been seated at least since this year, that's starting to hear this case and starting to investigate what law enforcement has and investigate to see if, do they need more? Who do they need to talk to? There are a number of different things that grand juries can ask for. They do consist of 6 grand jurors and 1 alternate. So it's definitely smaller than what you have in a regular jury. They can be impaneled by your circuit courts or by your superior courts with criminal jurisdiction. And so when the grand jury hears the evidence and they can examine the evidence concerning crimes, they shall take action with respect to the evidence that they hear that's as provided to them by law. So basically, the special prosecutor, Olivia, says, hey, I think it's time we seat a grand jury and have a grand jury take a look at what we have. See if we have enough. Because I really don't know. I feel like I do, but I want a grand jury to confirm it. So he goes to the court and he asks the court, which is a judge. You realize that when we're talking and we're using the word court, we're talking about a judge. So he goes to a judge and he says, I want you to impanel a grand jury for this case. So the court puts out the call for the prosecutor to get the grand jury seated. And the grand jury is convened by the judge issuing the order. And he will require the jury to meet at a specific date and time and at a place. Now, the same jurors cannot remain seated for longer than 6 months. So every 6 months, they have to change their jurors. So that's something to note. An alternate impaneled juror under the law in Indiana shall appear and hear all evidence presented to the grand jury just like they are a regular juror, but they don't get to comment or deliberate or vote on anything unless there's not a quorum of grand jurors for a particular reason. Now, a quorum is that they have to have 6. So if somebody was to get sick, hi, QWERTY, how are you? Thank you so much for coming, and I'm glad you find it that way. I'm always trying to give out information. A grand jury can, a quorum is they have to have all 6. So if somebody gets sick, you have to have somebody in place to take it, and that's what that alternate does. So, after a grand jury has been impaneled, the court that called the grand jury shall appoint one of the grand jurors as the foreman and one as clerk. And during any absence of the foreman or clerk, the grand jury shall select one of their number to act as the foreman or clerk. The clerk keeps the minutes of the grand jury proceedings. So they're the ones who have to write everything down. And the court supplies a means for recording the evidence presented before the grand jury and all of the other proceedings that occur before the grand jury, except for the deliberations and voting of the grand jurors and other discussions when the members of the grand jury are the only persons present in the grand jury room. Those are sealed. Those are absolutely secret. And so are the members that are selected as the grand jurors. So why is grand jury selection and seating and empanelment and all of that so secretive? It's secretive to protect not only the witnesses who are coming in to testify before the grand jury, but it is also to protect those who are being looked at to be indicted. Imagine what could happen if you were a person who had this, anybody for any reason, but especially somebody who was a high profile person, and you're being investigated by a grand jury and they're looking to indict you, and that was just common knowledge. Can you imagine? They could lose their job. They could be fired. They could be harassed horribly, by the media, by people protesting outside their homes. People can get violent. And in this country, in the United States of America, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So even though an indictment is brought down against you, you are still innocent until proven guilty. And I think we've forgotten that a lot in this country, because since we've gotten true crime TV and all of the stuff where we are able to follow all these court cases, sometimes even before they happen, we've got Nancy Grace and other people out on the airwaves who are convicting these people without ever having their day in court. I mean, it's just crazy. You know what, Michelle? I wonder if you're left out because of your job. I just wonder about that. For those of you who are new here, Michelle, Michelle Nicholas, who's one of my moderators, she's a CSI. She's been in law enforcement for a long time. So she's been able to give us a wealth of information on crime scene investigation. And especially, we talk about it a lot with Delphi and stuff, and she's been great. So the sitting on the grand jury is a true incredible experience. It is unlike any other jury. It's unlike anything you've ever seen, because you only get one side of the case. You only hear the prosecution side. It's really, really I'm serious, very, very rare to not get an indictment. So yeah, it's really interesting. But that's basically how that part of it works. The proceedings of a grand jury are not valid unless 5 members are present. 5 members have to be present for this to work. And that's the quorum that they're calling for. I just think the other thing that grand juries are able to do, they're able to actually give witnesses immunity. So they can say to a witness, if you testify before us and give us factual, testimony, we can give you immunity of prosecution based on what you tell us. And I think that that's truly important to remember. So what happens if a witness before a grand jury refuses to answer any question or produce an item that the grand jury has asked them for? The prosecutor may inform the court in writing of the question asked or the item sought and the reason given for the refusal, and then the court shall, after hearing, decide whether the witness is required to answer the question from the grand jury or produce the item, and the witness shall be informed immediately of the court's decision. So, you guys, you can see how these proceedings take a long time. Grand juries they're not in and done and done and done. They can take a long, long time to get through witnesses and to get through evidence and all of that. This can take a long time, this process. And I'm talking months and months. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to say or talk about was the unauthorized disclosure of grand jury information or to produce a transcript of a grand jury proceeding. Except when required to do so by the law, a person who has been present at a grand jury proceeding and who knowingly or intentionally discloses any evidence or testimony given or produced, what a grand juror said, or the vote of any grand juror to any other person except to a person who was also present or entitled to be present at that proceeding, or to the prosecuting attorney or his representative, commits unauthorized disclosure of grand jury information. It's a Class B misdemeanor. The transcript of testimony of a witness before a grand jury may be produced only for the official use by the prosecuting attorney, or if the court was impaneled by the impaneled the grand jury, the court trying a case upon an indictment of the grand jury, or a court trying a prosecution for perjury. They really, really, really try to keep these proceedings secretive to absolutely protect everyone involved. So they can call special grand jurors, they can give them special powers and duties, and they can give them special terms. And it is all based on the statutes within the criminal and judicial code of the state. So in Indiana, prosecutors are not required to proceed to a grand jury in order to charge a person with a crime. A prosecutor may bring charges by indictment or by information. So in Delphi's case, the prosecutor can say, you know what, we've got enough to go, let's go. Or the prosecutor can say, you know what, I'm not 100% sure, so let's convene a grand jury. They're always county grand juries. And most, like I said, since a prosecutor does not necessarily need or doesn't need, and not necessarily, just doesn't need to get an indictment from a grand jury in Indiana to do criminal charges. They usually, typically in Indiana, use them as an investigative tool. The grand jury can be used to issue subpoenas for evidence, as well as to compel testimony from individuals who may otherwise be uncooperative. So if Tony Klein is refusing to be cooperative or whatever, a grand jury can compel him to talk. In addition, a grand jury can also be used to enable a prosecutor to elicit the help of 6 members of the community to determine whether criminal charges are appropriate in more complicated or high-profile cases. So you see this most often in the same type of case that we are talking about, which is Delphi. Digital, what is the question, my dear? Can someone plead the fifth in front of a grand jury? For some reason, I don't think that they can. There is information on pleading the fifth. Hold on a second. How? Hang on a second. Because I think it depends if it's a federal grand jury or if it's a state grand jury. Let's see. What did it tell me? Because I've got the statute book. I'm looking through the statute book. So just give me a minute here. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back, guys. Talk amongst yourself in the chat. I won't be just a few minutes. Thank you guys for your patience. How are you guys doing? So, hey, True Crime Maria, thank you so much for your super sticker. I so appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, little Pookie, I haven't seen you a while. I hope you're doing well. Oh my, John. John says he lives near Quantico's Marine Base and they have bomb practice once a month. Big bombs, house shaking bombs. Oh my goodness. Thanks, Cordy. Thank you so much. I just really felt that it was important to talk about again because even though everything seems to be quiet, I keep seeing everything on social media. People are all talking about Delphi, but they're talking about how quiet it is out there and that there's no new information. And, we were all chomping at the bit. We got such great information um, earlier in the year. And now people are kind of backed off a little bit and are like, you know, it's gotten quiet again. What does that mean? So it's so good to see you guys all talk. Thank you, Tech Death, for your super sticker. Tech Death does all the music, you guys. He's just awesome. He's awesome, awesome. I'm sure if you guys need any music out there for your channels or whatever, just just talk to him. He's good. He's worth it. He's worth every penny. Can't say enough about him. He may even throw in a guinea pig or two. Hey, John. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And you are so welcome. Allie, thank you so much for your super sticker. So much. I appreciate you guys. Hey, Jill. I'm so happy you're here. So happy you're here. Oh, popcorn and snacks. That sounds awesome, Sally Ann. Dawn, thank you so much for being here. And I couldn't agree with you more. We have to ask ourselves why. One of the things that I have said all along, and people who know me and have been here for a while, there is a faction in social media that does not want Bridge Guy to be caught. I firmly believe that. I don't think I'm far off. Um, so yeah, I just I'm going back and looking at some of the comments. Tech Death, you are so funny. I love you. I do. Can you imagine? Michelle lives by NASA. You guys, she can see the shuttle when it goes up or the rockets. I'm just like, that has to be the most amazing sight. Truly. How beautiful. And she said it's beautiful. I'm just gonna go back to see if I missed anything, you guys. I just wanna make sure. Cordy's gonna take the bar exam. That might be a little much. I don't know that I gave you enough information to pass the bar, but you never know. You can't see Sally Ann, if you're still here, what did you mean that you can't see Nicholas McClellan doing that? You mean calling a grand jury? Calling for a grand jury? Yeah, crazy, right? Hey, Gonzo. So good to see you. I hope you're having a good week, my dear. Isn't it great to see all the nice chatters and how they all interact so nicely with each other? I love it. It's always so much fun and they always make me laugh. And after a show, it's always nice to have a smile because the things we talk about are so tragic. Gonzo knows how talented Tech is because Gonzo, you guys, he is extremely talented. If you have not gone and checked out Real Gone Gonzo, you need to go check out his channel, guys. Subscribe, like, and join his channel because he puts out some great community posts. He says he's not a YouTuber, but he's got a nice following, and he's worth getting to know. He's a super good person. Can't say enough about him. And Jennifer just put up my newest announcement. I have a couple. I was going to end my show with it tonight. I was going to kind of wait, but Michelle and Jennifer have been just gems for me, both of them. They do so much for my channel. And Jennifer is working on Facebook, guys. We are going to have a Facebook group where you guys can go over and chat and talk about the live streams, about things we've discussed here. And I'm excited about it. I really am excited about that. Um, I also have my website that's in the works. So I will soon have a website. I'm really excited about that. So I'll have to let you guys know that. Everybody does love Gonzo. Cordy, you are right. Who can't? I mean, he is just a breath of fresh air, right? Yeah, I'm excited. The channel's growing. It's growing because of you guys making sure that you're sharing my stuff, talking about it, getting it out there, and that's just great. I love getting more people in here to discuss stuff. It's so much fun. To have little debates here and there about why we think one way or why we think another, and tonight. We're all about Dylan. We all want Dylan to be found, and wouldn't it be wonderful if he is found alive? I'm still hopeful for him. I know that a lot of people don't think so, but I'm still hopeful. Gonzo has no fear. He scares me to death and he knows it. I'm just like, he'll send me a picture here or there. I'm like, what are you doing? He has no fear of heights, but you have to remember where he comes from. He lived on the ocean for quite a long time in the military, and so he's not afraid of water by any sense of the word. And he likes to jump. So I think that's, if you go back and you look at his channel, he's got some pictures of him jumping when, when he was young. You just need to go watch and look and check him out. Oh, hilarious, John. John says, "Don't mind me, I'm just trying out my emojis." That's hilarious. Well, guys, it was great being with you all tonight. I hope you guys got a lot of information about the grand jury and how it works in Indiana, because it is a little bit different than it is here in Illinois. So, um, you know, that's to me important to make sure that we understand and that very is a possibility that we have a grand jury in process right now with Delphi that is trying to investigate this case and help the prosecution. So I just wanted to thank everyone again for being here tonight. A good crowd, really good crowd of people, and so I was really excited. Gonzo just won a court case against Amber Heard. Hmm. Well, he certainly is. You know what? When I had him on live on my show, Cordy, he reminded me a lot of Captain Jack. He really did. So, hey, Dawn, you are doing just fine. You did just fine. I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Dee. How are you? Hey, Grizz. Hugs, my friend. Big hugs. So I hope the rest of you, or all of you, have a great rest of your night. Thank you to all my moderators for being here tonight and supporting Behind the Crime Door. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notified when I go live or if I drop a video. And as always, please, everyone, be safe out there. To all my members, there will be some new member content coming soon. So please be on the lookout for that. We're going to have some fun in the members corner. So, thank you to all of you who have joined, and good night. I will see you guys on Sunday night, not on Saturday night. So I will be back on Sunday night. I'm going to be off with my family for a few days. So enjoying my family. But anyway, thank you guys. Love to you all. And have a good evening. I will see you soon.